Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you back to the next episode of Life Success Legacy, our podcast. I'm Chris Bay, joined by Pei Chen. Pei, how are you?
I'm good. Wearing the same outfit
Good.
as last time. So that
Yeah,
is
isn't that
consistent.
amazing? We both are, actually, and I'm in the same place. It's almost like we recorded one right after the other.
The secret's out.
So we did for our listeners, and I'll do a little bit of a recap, but for our listeners, we wanted to do a back-to-back recording and break it into two pieces because the information altogether would be too much for one podcast. So we intentionally are breaking this into two. So in our last podcast recording with Pei, Pei walked through the idea of velocity banking and gave us real examples of how you can use velocity banking, leveraging a line of credit, and that could be a variety of different things, right? But leveraging a line of credit to do a debt snowball to pay down debt rapidly, moving from a 30-year payoff down to what, like 7 years to pay it off.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah. Then what we talked about, what Pei shared with us, is using the same concepts, the same principles, how you can use velocity banking for investing in real estate. And she gave some examples with that as well. Now we're getting to the actual point of why we wanted to ask Pei to get on our podcast with us. And that is to talk about velocity banking and how it pairs so well with IBC and income stacking. So how'd I do on my recap, Pei?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome memory.
Good enough. Doesn't need to be perfect, but good enough.
Yeah. It's option one, door two, door three. Which one do you want to go with? Right.
That's
Based
right.
on your cash flow situation, your comfort level of being an investor, going from in the cash flow quadrant. Robert Kiyosaki talks about the 4 quadrants. You're going from, a lot of people are trying to jump straight from employee into investor, and they don't go through the proper sequencing. And it's a challenge because you don't understand how cash flow works. You don't understand how to read a profit and loss statement. So a little bit of that transition is actually helpful. I've been through the W-2 to small business owner to owning a franchise and now learning how to put my money to work, right? So what I'm trying to share is just kind of give you a little shortcut so you don't have to spend too much time in each of the quadrant for too long,
right?
You can get to experiment a little bit, but you want to be going to the I quadrant, which is the investor quadrant, as quickly and as safely as possible. And this is essentially what it allows it to do, is to compact those time in the other 2 quadrants for you. You can still be in those quadrants, like be a dentist or whatever, be a small business owner, but you want to leg into being a passive income investor as fast as you can.
And I would encourage people to check out that cash flow quadrant. If you're not familiar with it, by Robert Kiyosaki, when that was about the same time that I was investigating infinite banking, and that quadrant opened my eyes. I mean, I was never a business owner. I wasn't even really an investor. I was an employee. I was a school principal, and we were just trying to make it, paycheck to paycheck. And that concept, now I think in terms of frameworks and images. So that image that he shared with the cash flow quadrant, it really spoke to me. So to our listeners, if you're not familiar with that, do some searching on that. It could be really powerful for you. So yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
No, you're welcome.
One of my
all-time favorites.
Yeah.
So I think let's jump to the income stacking and what it is.
Let's do it.
Share my screen again here. And can you see my screen?
Looks good. Yeah, looks great.
Okay. So like I said, we talked about level 1 of velocity banking for debt pay down. Level 2 of velocity banking is where you combine that with real estate, investing, or traditional investing, I want to say. Here's the velocity banking 3.0, more advanced thinking, which is the passive income stacking. This is where we're actually going to harness the same force that we just talked about to build passive income. And we're going to build enough passive income to cover our monthly expenses. So not worrying about debt pay down anymore. We're going to just focus on building passive income so that we can, even if we still have debt, like the mortgage or the car note still left, we're okay. We can cover it because then that means you're financially free when your passive income meet or surpasses all your expenses. That's the goal, right?
Yes.
And we're doing the same thing. We're still leveraging other people's money or IBC policy cash value to just invest a little bit differently and wisely in this scenario. So
Good stuff.
let's reframe this again. Again, this is about the mindset shift that has to happen. Okay? Because what happens is a lot of people, they're going to come into some cash flow situation where they're like, oh, now I have cash flow. What should I do with it? And they're going to chat GPT it, they're going to research it, and it's going to give them a plan. And that's often the accumulation method where it's going to be like, okay, well, take that $2,000 per month, and you should put that into an S&P 500 mutual fund and allow the mutual fund company to manage that for you. And after 20 years, if the market never tanks, it's perfect every single year for the next 20 years at 12% earnings, you will turn this $480,000, that's $2,000 per month for 20 years, $480,000 of your money, you will turn that into $1.8 million nest egg. And from then on, you're at retirement age, you can now take out 3 to 4%, depending on how the market has done or how inflation has impacted this whole system. Let's just say conservative, or let's just go aggressive. You can take out 4% of that $1.8 million. Now you can enjoy retirement life on $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
That way you never have to borrow. You're never at risk. And because debt is, being in debt is bad. Here is where I wanted to help people change that mindset, is to shift from that accumulation way of investing to leveraging money, other people's money, or your own money in the IBC policies, and invest in short-term amortized notes, those mortgages or car notes that we kind of talk about it, but even shorter term that pays you monthly principal plus interest back, right? And number one question people are going to ask, so I already preemptively put it on the screen already, is where can I get these notes? Okay. Typically, you could do Prosper if your state allows it. It's a peer-to-peer lending platform, allows you to lend money to average Joes out there, and they pay you principal plus interest back. Ground Floor is another company out there that you can actually lend money to people who are doing fix and flip deals, right? So they kind of put your money and break it into multiple different deals so that you can get money back that way. PaperStack is a platform where you can actually go there and look for notes, right? They sell all sorts of mortgage, land notes, some business notes. You can go there. That's a platform. It's like a marketplace. You can actually just sign up for a free account and you could go out there and shop for notes. Or anyone who's read Mike's book will know that in his book, he actually explains how you can actually self-create these amortized notes just using your policy. So you can go risky or you can go ultra conservative and safe and do it all within your IBC policy environment.
And we have clients that do all of these, right? They use their IBC policies as their line of credit. And then we have folks who try all of these different examples. I have done a variety of these here. And then the dibs on your money, we have clients who they only do income stacking within their own policies, which that can be a mind bender for some people to wrap their head around. But all of these are options. But the main idea that Pei is giving us, and this was a shift that I had to go through in my history, is shifting from that accumulation method, shifting to a passive income approach. That can be a big mindset shift for some people.
Yeah. So that will actually be our learning objective today, is to hopefully at least allow people to question the old way. If not completely, accepting the new way, start to question the old way.
Yes.
So I like to keep things simple just like if I was to give a science lab instruction to my students back in the day, I like to give them step-by-step plans so they don't goof it up. And that's what I have essentially done to this system. And just to be fair out there, I didn't create a system. I'm merely a student of the student from various different coaching companies out there that offer this type of education. I was a student. I learned it. I absorbed it. And the teacher in me says, there's a better way to present this. And that's what I've done, right?
Yep.
So I want to make it as simple as possible so that I don't set up the lab and then the first question is, what do I do, Miss Chen? Oh, been there, done that. So yes. I want to show people a step-by-step plan on how to optimize. First of all, step one, you got to optimize your monthly cash flow. Even if it's just a simple spreadsheet tracker that you have to do for the next couple months to see the real picture, it could be kind of painful for a lot of people because they don't want to know. But this is, if you don't do this step one, you're not going to be successful. Step one is to look at your cash flow and look at where there are maybe some leaks that, unnecessary subscription that you continue to pay even though you're no longer using the services. Those are little leaks that you can plug. Or
it's also an opportunity for couples to have some serious conversations about what they're aiming for, what are their goals, and are they aligned in that, because that monthly cash flow oftentimes can show up and you have a spender in a relationship, and so it's a good conversation to have for sure to make sure you're aligned.
Yeah. And you guys do a fantastic job with the dream conversation. And Mike and I, also experienced it as clients back in the day, going through that process, really having that talk that couples normally don't do is to talk about what do you want to do with money? What is your ideal retirement look like? If I like to be lying on the beach and then my spouse likes to be hiking on the mountain, there's a little disconnect.
Yes.
Right. So that's a great conversation to have, doing that dream conversation that you guys have with people as well.
We aim for identifying that mutual purpose. And we often tell people, look, one of the top friction sources in a relationship is money. And so if we can help reduce that friction, then all of a sudden your relationship's going to be much, much easier to handle.
That's right.
Much more enjoyable.
Yeah. And the second piece of it is to obtain that revolving line of credit. You got to have access to it. I like to say that it's like we're building a car. Like if I'm at a car assembly line, first thing is I need to have my cash flow. And then second thing is I need to have my revolving line of credit. That's kind of the chassis of this vehicle. Right? Is it going to be a two-seater? Is it going to be a minivan because your family is expanding and it's going to expand? Then you better go out there and start building your line assets to credit, because your whole entire system that I'm going to show you today, it can only be as big as your assets to capital. That's your one limitation out there. If you can only tap into $10,000, your system will spin at $10,000. So obtain a good line of credit. I said good would be a personal line of credit. We talked about that. That's controlled by the bank. A better one will be a HELOC, right? Because if you have a property, you can tap into the equity that's otherwise not being utilized. It's just sitting there idle. Even better HELOC would be what we call the all-in-one product, which is a first position mortgage and a line of credit and a checking account all combined. That's why it's called the all-in-one. People can kind of Google and search for providers. There are many, many banks that offer that now. It's really an awesome tool for doing velocity banking with. And then, of course, the best and the most superior, better than any of these, is the IBC policy that it has all those features and then some. Right. So that's why it's the better option to have. But I get it. Not everybody can qualify for IBC policy.
And there can be a combination of some of these too. You can have IBC policy. You're always going to want to have IBC policy, in my opinion. But then you can also add to that a home equity line of credit or an all-in-one loan. And really you can get a lot of flexibility with those pieces together. It just depends on your education and your understanding of how those work. And if you have the mindset to see how those things work together.
Yeah. And Nelson never said to no longer like bank, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
still, your money still has to be deposited in the bank. They still serve a function
Mm-hmm.
in your life, even though we're becoming our banker. It's just that I prefer to borrow from myself first before I go to outside source.
Yes.
And then the middle piece of this car building experiment that we're doing is the engine. We got to select the right engine for this vehicle the chassis that we've selected, right? So that's the piece that I'm going to concentrate today is what does the engine look like? What does it feel like? What should you be hearing when you rev it up,
What kind of
right? So
horsepower
that
are we going to
engine piece.
get?
Yeah,
Yeah. What kind of
right,
horsepower?
exactly.
How efficient is this engine? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the last piece is, well, you got to fuel this car, right? If you have Tesla and there's no charging station, you're not buying the Tesla. I don't care how great the technology is, right? So that 3-year short-term amortized note with monthly payments that starts immediately, that's kind of the last piece. But again, this is about the process, not about the product.
Yes.
Yeah. So here we go. We're going to get right into it, right? Passive income stacking. This is the mechanic or the engine that we're looking at. We're popping open the hood and we're looking at the engine right now, okay? So what we're doing is we're leveraging $10,000. Okay, let's go back a little bit. We're determining, first step, our cash flow.
Yes.
Right. We went through that first step with my spouse and I said, hey, we have $2,000. We can start deploying into investments, right? I don't want to wait 2 years before I have a large chunk of money to deploy. I want to deploy that today. What should I do? Right. So with that $2,000 monthly cash flow in mind, I'm going to go to the bank or to my policy and I'm going to borrow $10,000 from someone else. Okay. And I'm going to take this borrowed money and I'm going to invest it. That's called a stack. I'm going to invest it as a stack of notes. And this note is set on a very specific term. It's 3 years, short term, 3-year amortized, meaning you're getting your monthly principal plus interest back as monthly payment. And it should pay you about, I put 330, it's a little bit more aggressive, but anything around $300 will do. Okay. So if you're out there searching for the product, that's kind of a guideline. If I'm investing $10,000 and I'm comparing different options, does this $10,000 generate $300 per month for me back for 36 months? If it does, then I'm going to dig in and look into, okay, what are you guys investing in to be able to generate this type of income, right? If it doesn't, if it's like, oh, $10,000 invested, I'm going to get $80 back per month. No thanks. It's going to slow me down. So very easy to look at different investments because that's your number one criteria. How does it pay monthly?
And I know this is just an example, but even just looking at the entry point here, you're looking at $10,000 line of credit versus back with the real estate, your example is $50,000. So for those people who are like, well, I don't have $50,000, this passive income stacking gives a lower entry point.
That's right. And I went with a little bit high cash flow, kind of in the middle. I could have gone as low as, 1,000.
Yeah.
Or even lower. But I would say comfortably, if you want to start investing, you should be hovering around $1,000 positive cash flow per month, unless you're like 18 years old and, still starting. If you're in your 20s, 30s, a little bit older, you should be, that should be a goal to have a minimum of $1,000 cash flow per month. Okay.
Yeah. That's a good starting point for people to look a benchmark.
Yeah. So if you just reduce everything scale down, if it's $1,000 cash flow, then you're not going to leverage $10,000. You're going to leverage 5,000 instead. So just scale that down. So in this ratio, we're with the $2,000 per month personal cash flow, we're going to 5x that and borrow $10,000 from the bank or our policy. And we're going to put that into a stack of investment, paying us immediately the month after, right? 300 and some odd dollars back for the next 36 months. That's fixed payment coming back for 3 years. Yes. And what do we do with that money? The very next month, I get a direct deposit into my checking account, the $330 income. I'm not going to go out there and, have a wild party. I'm going to take this discipline take the $330 plus my personal cash flow, and I'm going to make a loan repayment to my line of credit that I borrowed that money from. Okay. So in the beginning, you're like, wait, but I'm just moving money. I'm not gaining anything. The gain is in the back end, not the front. So it's a think long-term process.
Yeah, I
So
always tell people there's two words, and just the way my brain works, I like to really simplify things or try to. And when I think of passive income stacking, the two words that come to mind is flow, keep the money flowing, and layer.
yeah,
And what Pei's going to show us here is she's showing us right now how it flows, and then she's going to show how it layers.
that's right. So that flow, very easy, right? The line of credit goes into investment. With the investment income plus my cash flow, it flows back to pay off the line of credit. And in about 4.5 months, 4.3 months in this case, I'm able to pay off $10,000. Okay. So after I paid off my $10,000, I'm not going to just quit. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to re-leverage that revolving line of credit. As we talked about it, I get to access it again. And I'm going to re-leverage $10,000 and I'm going to start stack 2. And that first stack is going to keep paying only I only receive 4 payments, right? I'm going to keep getting more payments. But now stack 2, that layer of additional income is going to come in with a second investment. And I'm going to keep the same pace. I'm not going to deviate and now get into a 5-month no or a 12-month no. No, I'm going to keep the same pacing. So stack 2 is going to pay the same amount for 36 months, right? And that 2 investments combined is $660 now, passive, plus my $2,000 per month of the personal cash flow. And I'm going to repeat and pay off my line of credit. And that process will speed it up because of that additional $300 coming in. It's going to take 3.8 months. I'm going to shave off a couple weeks, right, of payoff time in this scenario. So I can pay this line of credit off faster.
Right. So to link this back to an example that you shared in the previous podcast with real estate, in that case, we had a $50,000 loan that we used as a down payment on a property. And once we paid back that $50,000 loan, you then use that money again, that revolving line of credit, to go purchase another property, right? This is really the same thing. We're using 10,000 instead. We're starting something that's going to pay out over a 36-month period. We pay it off though in 4.3 months. We've got our 10,000 back, so we're going to then go and invest in a second stack. And so we're layering these stacks on top of each other. Makes me think of pancakes.
I was just going to say that. Think of pancakes.
I need some butter and syrup.
One is good. Don't you want 2?
Let's get that stack as high as we can make it.
That's right. That's right. So after that second stack leverage is paid off, that line of credit is paid off, I'm going to do it again, right? And actually this time you're like, ooh, I'm even a little bit more confident now. Maybe I could put in a little bit of my cash flow that I was hesitant to put paid in, because that's exactly what happened to myself, right? At first we were like, no, we're not putting in any more dollar than the $1,000 that we commit to this. But then once you start seeing this payment, you're like, wait a second, I got some money in my sofa some change that I can dig up.
Yes.
Right. Everybody's got some secret reserve that they don't want to tap into. I get that. Right. So we're going to do that again. Leverage the same $10,000 and we're going to do stack 3 of investment of the short-term note. Same thing. It's very boring by design. This third stack is going to bring in another $330 a month for 36 months. And then we're going to combine all those passive income from the investments, and we're going to combine that with our personal cash flow, and we're going to be able to pay off $10,000 this time in 3.3 months. We're speeding it up, right?
Yes.
And the minute we pay off this $10,000, we are redeploying it into the next stack of short-term amortized notes. And we are doing stack 4. Now we got 4 payments of $330 per month coming in passively, and we're still using our $2,000 personal cash flow to pay off the same $10,000 line of credit. This takes about 1 year. This is a 1-year process, right, at this point.
One of the ideas that comes to mind right now is Mike Kwong's explanation of like riding a bicycle. And if you think about it, you start your bike in first gear, right? Because you don't have any velocity or momentum going, and so you're pedaling in first gear. But as you start building that speed, that your pedals are going way too fast, right? And so what we're seeing is these things are paying off in shorter and shorter time periods. So it makes me think of those pedals are starting to get going too fast. So now I hope you will share with us when our pedals start getting too fast, what do we do then?
Yeah, so this is the perfect timing. Even if you're in your spinning class, right? This is when your instructor says up a gear. And here we are.
Yes.
We're going to increase that gear of the leverage gear from 10,000 to 15,000. Okay, so it's a 1.5x. So increase it by 50%, right? So
Yeah.
10,000 goes to 15,000. And when you invest more money, naturally, you're going to get more money back, right? So $15,000 into a short-term amortized note. Now that new stack 5, should bring in $490 per month, right? For 36 months. And
So
so
because it's a larger stack, it's going to pay out a larger amount on a monthly basis.
that's right. And
Yeah.
your previous stacks are still continuing to pay. Remember, those are 36 months payments. They don't start to drop off or expire until 3 years from now, right? So in the meantime, the first 3 years is critical. It's like you're having a baby. You wanna baby this newborn as much as possible in the early years, right? So this is when we don't want to deviate from the plan. We want to stick to the plan, and we want to and just kind of build as many layers as possible. This is our foundational layer.
Yeah.
And so our pacing now, when we up a gear on the more money that we borrowed, of course, it's going to slow us down a little bit, right? We were just down to like less than 3 months payoff of 10,000. When we up the gear now, even with the additional income coming in from the higher amount of bigger note, we're still going to stretch our payoff time just a tiny bit. So now we're back up to roughly 4 months to pay off that $15,000. Not too bad, right? We're still within the reasonable range. And once the same thing, rinse and repeat. The minute we pay off that $15,000 that we leveraged, we're going to re-leverage it. And this time we're going to leverage $15,000 into stack 6. And stack 6 pays the same thing, $493 per month for 36 months. And that combined, this is going too long, so I'm shorting this a little bit so that this is from the last stack payment was $3,813. Now we're adding additional $493 for that to that total payment, and we're using $4,306 to pay off $15,000 leverage. So that's going to take us 3.5 months to pay off. So a little bit of incremental gain. It compounds over time.
Sure.
And stack 7 and 8, same thing. 15,000 line of credit leverage goes into short-term amortized note. We do our stack 7. We increase our monthly payment towards the line of credit to $4,799. We're paying off a $15,000 line of credit in 3.1 months. We do it one more time, stack 8. Now we're leveraging $15,000, right, still, and now we're down to 2.8 months to pay off $15,000 with that 8th stack payment, right? So visually, I hope people understand this is kind of repetitive. Yes, it's designed that way. It's not meant to be all up and down. It's supposed to be a very nice, compounding curve. We'll see that later.
Yeah.
And then guess what? We were able to, if we look back, we were able to pay off $15,000 in under 3 months, 2.8. So that means, again, our wheels are spinning a little bit too fast. So we need to up that gear. And when we're going to up the gear from 15,000 to now 22,500. So you see how if you don't have access to line of credit or cash value, it's hard to grow. That's your limitation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I like to bring this up earlier on so that you can start preparing for it. If you know that 3 years from now, I need a line of credit that's maybe $25,000 capacity, then start preparing for it now, right? You don't start applying for a line of credit after you quit your job. You want to make sure you have those line of credit in place before you, say bye to your boss. That's why I always tell people, make sure you have those in place. So now we're going to leverage 22,500, right, of other people's money into stack nine. Stack nine now with 22,500, it's bringing $740 for that stack. Add that to the mix. We're using $6,032 to pay off 22,500. We're still within very good pacing, even though we upped the gear. We're still paying this off in roughly 4 months. Okay, so
Nice.
we're gonna do that again. Leverage 22.5 again, and do stack 10, and that's 10 stack is gonna bring our passive income or total income to $6,772, and we're using all that to pay off the 22,005. We're right at 3.3 months to pay off this 10th stack. And that actually is a good mark to kind of summarize our result, because what happens? This is roughly the 3-year mark. Okay. So 36 months have come through, and we have stacked 10 stacks. Our passive income from just the investment part, not counting our $2,000, is already at $4,772 a month. So if you just multiply that by 12 months, you have $57,000, right? Equivalent of that as passive income. And you have leveraged that same line of credit 10 times. So you didn't borrow more. You just used the same dollars 10 times. And you started at 10,000, and now you're borrowing at 22,500. The same source. No, not adding any more leverage, just from the same source. And if you count all the stacks, all the 10 stacks that we've done so far, total, that's $145,000 of other people's money that I put to work. I didn't go
fantastic.
I didn't go out there to drive Uber, right? Or DoorDash in order to earn $145,000 to put to work. I use other people's money. And the personal cash flow, of course, I put in some money of $2,000 per month for the 36 months. That's $72,000. That is your actual input. Okay. So if you really think about it, I used $72,000 of my money to control $145,000 of asset that is paying me monthly, $4,772 a month.
Yes.
Okay, so let that sink in for a minute for people.
Yeah, I know.
That's just 3 years.
People have to wrap their heads around that. I remember when I was learning about income stacking, I think it took me about 3 conversations with you and Mike before I started to wrap my head. And that was, I mean, we've been doing income stacking now for 4 years, I would say. Yeah.
And it's just a matter of rinse and repeat process.
It is. And what people, they may see this at first glance and say, gosh, this looks so complicated. And how much time does it take? Because I really just like my, somebody taking money out of my paycheck, and then I don't have to worry about it. And for those people out there that don't want to spend any time or any thought, any brain space thinking about this, true, this may not be for everybody. But what we do want to expose people to is that there are options that you can consider. And what I'll tell you is my income stacking, I maybe spend 15 minutes a month, maybe. Yeah. And I would bet it's less than that. It does not take a lot of time.
Yeah, it shouldn't. And if you're spending a lot of time on it, it's either you're trying to, I mean, like myself, I'm just obsessed with it, right? I love it. So I spend a lot of time tinkling with it and trying to figure out if there's better ways and whatever. But I always come back to the same conclusion. The OG way is the best way. And then for the most part is tracking. You got to track it. And if you are consistent with your tracking, you won't have a hot mess on your hand, right? Start with day one with proper tracking. But really, I've done this Mike and I have done this almost 7 years. We're coming up on our 7 years doing this. And it tracks the projections that I've done. It's pretty accurate. Because I mapped this out for 20 years. And what happens at year 10 is even more amazing than year 3.
Yeah.
Year 3 is
tell
just
us
the beginning.
What happens at year 10.
Right. Because year 10, the passive income, because I want to show that this is not a linear growth. This is a compounding growth. The passive income in year 10, it's going to be $34,378 a month, because we're going to be able to leverage that same line of credit over and over again for 31 times by the beginning of the year 10. And our stack size at year 10, it grows from 10,000 was what we started with. By year 10, we're leveraging 170,000 and change per stack, not per year, per stack. And don't forget, we're stacking 3 to 4 times a year, right? And by the 10th year, we have put out $1.8 million of other people's money to work. And yes, we continue to put in our own personal cash. That part hasn't stopped. So the personal cash flow that's being inputted into the system is now equivalent to $240,000. That's the forced saving piece, right? But again, I want to come back and reframe it for the audience is, what did I just do? I used $240,000 of my money to control $1.8 million of asset that's going to continue to make passive payment income for me for the remaining time, right? So that's the leverage that we talk about. That's the power of leverage in this scenario.
Yeah.
And we can even go even further. What happens?
Let's do
year 20, right? Year 20, we're looking at passive income of $142, passive, not including our money, $142,000, $404 per month. So if you multiply that all together for the 12 months of that earning, that's $1.7 million per year of passive income. It's not that much. It's not very impressive. And we have leveraged our line of credit 53 times. We've done 53 stacks in that case. And the stack size is $865,000 and change on that, right? And in 20 years, what you've done compared to remember the original mindset of the person who accumulated wealth, in 20 years, I've used $480,000 of my personal cash flow to control $12.8 million of asset.
Yes.
Right.
So a question that some people might have, and I think it's an important piece to talk about, is when you're ready for that passive income, right? When you say up there at what happens at year 20, passive income is $142,000 a month, right? That's passive income. Does that mean that I get to pocket $142,000 when I'm ready to tap into that passive income? Or can you explain a little bit about how you think about that?
Yeah, because we are trying to build a perpetual machine, right? Perpetual income building machine. So what we would say is you don't want to then now, and I'm actually going to show you what happens if you just stop. You just stop inputting money and just start spending money like crazy, right? But we're not going to, that's an extreme case. What normally happens is people then start, even by year 10, you don't have to wait till year 20. Even by year 10, you can already start to peel off, right? Or use a percentage of that monthly passive income to enjoy your life. And I like to use this point as when I first started teaching at the public school system, guess what my first monthly paycheck was? $3,400, right? So if I was to take 10% off of that passive income, right, that we're receiving monthly, didn't I just replace myself?
Yeah.
Because I can take $3,400 a month from my system that I built over the last 10 years, and I can quit my job and my lifestyle will not change at this point, right? It gives me the option to say, I don't want to continue teaching, in a public school anymore. I want to teach somewhere else, or I don't want to teach at all.
Would you say that 10% is a general rule of thumb that people can kind of have in mind?
It's a conservative number. I throw it out there because I would assume people want to keep growing. But there are people who are like, no, I'm good with $3,400. Right? Remember, at this time, you can also start putting in that $2,000. So essentially, $3,400 is from the passive income side, and then plus you're no longer contributing or using $2,000 of your money into the system. So if you continue to work, you have now $5,000 of passive income, $5,400 of passive income that you can enjoy your life with. Or you could say like, no, I'm not. I want to quit. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to work anymore.
Yeah.
Then just use the $3,400 to cover your living expenses. If that's what you need.
So because this system, and you're going to show us here with a graph, is exponential, right? It's compounding. If we're looking at 10%, let's say at year 10, does the percentage increase if you go longer that you could pocket? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the longer you go, the percentage you can pull off it increases.
Yeah. So if you're willing to defer the enjoyment of your money a little bit longer, say you're younger and you're like, hey, you know what? I still love my job. I'm still healthy. I love what I do. I can keep going. Then great. Why stop? Right? As long as it doesn't hinder your final goal. Like what do you really want out of life? Right. So if you keep going, right, or you can just take off a little bit, right? You don't stop the whole thing. You just kind of level off the curve building, right? You could take some out. But at year 20, you can take out good 15, 20% from the system, right? You still have, if you just use 10%, that's $14,000 a month of per month, not per year, $14,000 a month of passive income for doing nothing, for 10 minutes of tracking, right?
Yeah.
That's not too bad of a side gig.
Not too bad.
Right. That's a little very good minion that you have created.
Yes.
And it can just keep going, right? If you want to continue to build, then keep going. Don't take out too much. If you're like, I don't care, I just want to level off. I just want to be able to take out $10,000 a month forever, right? Then just take out more. You could take out more now and then just let the rest go back into investment, and it would just kind of plateau for you. It would start spinning as notes drop off and you're taking out money. And if you're taking out a little bit, higher amount, then it won't, you're going to feel the resistance. You're not going to be able to pay off that line of credit on a 4 months, 3 months decreasing time frame. You're going to start just like, oh wow, as I pay off the line of credit, my notes from previous 3 years starts to drop off. Now I'm still using the same. I'm not able to increase my stacks anymore. I'm just kind of plateau and leveling off at the same amount. But if you're leveling off at $800,000 per stack, I don't know why people will complain about that.
Right.
Right.
Well, and for some of our folks who are very legacy minded, they may want to keep their income stacking growing because they're thinking about future generations.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing right now is like we have enough passive income from our own system. I'm spinning off, a portion of that, small portion of that, to assist my daughter with her stack. Right? She's 18. She doesn't have a full-time job. She's in school. She doesn't have $1,000 cash flow. Well, but mom and dad can assist. Like we can match, right? We do a matching program. If you can at least produce $500 from your Cutco sales job, I will match $500 so that you can at least do, stacking with $1,000 cash flow. So I'm doing a junior stack for her, along with her so that she can learn the process. So talk about legacy, right? I'm not just building something for Mike and I to enjoy. I'm going to spin off some of the cash flow now to start her stack at an early age so that her number is going to look fantastic. Just like her IBC policies that we start on her when she was, a baby, right? Her numbers look so much better than mine. That's just the nature. The benefit of time. Time is on her side,
Yes.
Yeah. So I also want to, I usually, when I build these projections, I like to be a little I like to be funny. So I like to kind of joke around a little bit. And I say, well, what if I stop investing completely? What if I don't even put in my own money anymore? I'm done. I quit. I want to quit this process, right? Well, good for you, right? Because that passive income, you stop it, it still continues for 36 months because we're building these with 36 months notes, right? That final payment after 3 years is over, you're getting your check continuously. It starts to dwindle down, get smaller and smaller. That final check that you receive is still $28,000 from the system, right? And the total cash that's going to return back for that in that duration, after you already paid off that line of credit, you don't owe the line of credit anymore. The net difference is $2.8 million.
Wow.
So remember the accumulation guy that we were comparing with, that
Right.
neighbor of yours who was putting $2,000 a month into the S&P 500 mutual fund, they ended up with $1.8 million that they can earn 4% on, right? So they can survive on $5,000 per month from their investment portfolio and hope and pray that the market doesn't tank, right? Versus you, who built this for the same time frame, same dollar input, you have $2.8 million. You could have just put that money, the $2.8 million, then, into the same mutual fund that the other guy is, having his financial advisor manage, and say, okay, I'm going to give you $2.8 million and have you handle that and pay me the 4% like my neighbor, and you still have a better lifestyle than your neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because 4% on a $2.8 million is a lot different than 4% on $1.8 million. It's a whole $1 million advantage that you gain.
Yeah, I love that, controlling your own banking process then leads to all kinds. It's why Nelson called it the infinite banking concept. And what you're demonstrating is just an option for people to consider. It's a way to blend two amazing concepts, controlling your own banking with income stacking. You have a graph to show over time for people who are visual.
Yeah. This is the graph of what income stacking will generate for you after 20 years. The blue line underneath here on the very bottom that you see that's just flat and then it kind of dips, that's the personal cash flow input into the system. Okay. And this is showing at year 20, dropping it off to zero, not inputting any dollars in here anymore. That's why there's a drop here. Okay. And this curve, this is that famous compounding curve. And we like to call these early years the valley of despair. Same thing with the capitalizing IBC policy. You're like, oh, come on. Can I skip these years? No, absolutely not. What you give up if you delay is never these early years. What you give up when you delay is these peaks that, doesn't, you either don't reach the peak or it kind of, drops off sooner. But this compounding curve is showing the total income, right? Including your personal cash flow in here, how that gets built up over time, right? So you see the drop off, those are the notes expiring along the way. Right? That gearing, as you increase your bump up of your leverage, that's where you see, and then you'll come down a little bit because of the drop offs of the notes expiring, because these are 3-year notes. And then this cliff that we see here, don't be scared. This cliff is
everyone's looking at the cliff. Everyone's looking at the cliff.
What happened?
Like, what happened there?
Yeah, that's the visual to represent what happens if you stop investing completely at year 20 and you are just enjoying this drop off of income. You're just spending. This is your spending until it's down to zero. So guess what? It takes 20 years to build up to this new height. And if you stop investing, it takes 3 years to completely drop it off.
Why would anyone do that, Pei?
I don't know. But sometimes life do happen. Life does happen. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe I get diagnosed with a terminal illness and I just say, oh, I'm going to enjoy my life, right? I'm going to have some crazy parties. I just want to use all my money. My daughter's already all set. She has her snowball. She doesn't need my snowball anymore. I can just enjoy my life, right? That could be, or maybe I have a medical need and I need to start using this money. I need to take more than what I'm, maybe I need to tap into it, more than 20% at the time because of whatever need that I have. Life happens. I'm not gonna.
It does.
Say one way is the better way, but guess what? You have options to make decisions differently when you have access to capital.
And we're both educators. And we know the importance of educating younger generations. I'm thinking of a client who is in the later years of life. And one of his goals is to make sure that the younger generation understands how income stacking and IBC works so that someone within the family can then continue the stacks going forward, right?
Yeah.
Because if we just hold this information to ourselves and we don't share it with the younger generation, it may end with us. And so that's, I think, a really important part for all of us and our listeners is how are you educating your kids? How are you bringing them along in this understanding of how these concepts work?
Yeah. And it's just such a generational thinking that comes in place. So, but this system is different because you can benefit from it along the way. So it's not just sacrifice, and that's being Asian, that's very much my parents' generation is sacrifice themselves for the next generation. But we've gone out of that already. This is the new generation is about, hey, you know what? I'll take care of you, but I need to take care of myself. Self-care.
Yeah. Right.
So just a little food for thought, right? If you just look at this whole picture, you're like, oh, do I really want to build this? But think about this. If you need $5,000 per month income to live on, right? Just to cover your expenses, you're going to need to accumulate over your lifetime of working about $1.5 million in a IRA, 401k type of account, right? If you want to use that 4% drawdown rule from the Monte Carlo method.
So this is the accumulation model.
Yeah. So if you need that, then you need to have that $1.5 million asset sitting there so that you can live on $5,000 a month, right? So if you are saving $2,000 a month into that account, right? It's going to take you 750 months or 62.5 years to achieve it. That's your, of course, if you have very good earning years and whatnot, then you can shrink that time a little bit. Right. That's what they promise you, right? The 12% return, average return, but that's never the reality. But if something was to happen to that fund or to the market or whatever, and you're near the end of drawing down time, how many 62.5 years do you have to correct course?
Right. Well, I'm looking at the guy in the picture and I'm wondering if he's thinking or if he's just depressed.
If that was my outlook for retirement, I would be depressed.
Right.
Because that's
and I think
scary.
that's where a lot of people land.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to have enough to retire with the accumulation model. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes by the time they realize it, it's really hard to maneuver. You don't have time. Time is no longer on your side. It's fine for Jackie. She's 18. She has many room for mistakes. She has, years to make mistake on.
Right.
At 50, I don't have another, 30, 40 years to make mistakes. I need to be as precise and as, accurate as possible at this point with my money. Everything has to spend on things, specific reasons with intention, right? We're not just experimenting anymore.
So as I was listening to you, I was jotting down on the side here some basic rules of thumb. And I want you to tell me if I'm on point with these for our listeners. Okay. One is when you're figuring out like what size flip to or stack to start with, you take your cash flow, your monthly cash flow, your available cash flow, and multiply it by 5. So for example, if I have $1,000 a month of cash flow, multiply by that 5, my first stack is going to be $5,000. General rule of thumb. If it's 2,000 a month, multiply it by 5, that first stack might start with 10,000. Okay. And generally in my observations, as you did this, it seemed like you would not increase the size of the stack until it was paying off in 3 months or less.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So generally when you get it paid off in less than 3 months, that's a good time to increase the size of the stack. Okay. And then when you do increase the size of the stack, you were increasing it by 50%. So for example, if your stack was $10,000 you would then increase it to 15,000 once that 10,000 is paying off in 3 months or less.
Yes.
Am I doing okay? And then
Perfect.
what I understood is if you fast forward to say year 10 or year 20, the amount that you can pocket or that you can kind of shave off of your income stacking, earlier 10% is probably a conservative amount to start with, but if you let it ride for 15, 20 years or more, you're looking more at like 15, even maybe 20%. And still your income stack, that machine is still going to continue and potentially grow.
Yes. Accurate.
Okay. Those are my rules of thumb. I thought I did a pretty good job listening, Pei, and you did a fantastic job teaching.
Thank you so much, because I know
Yes.
that this process is hard for people to, when they're first time encountering it,
Yes,
it's a lot to process,
it
right?
was for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've done, my business partners and I kind of went through a lot of thinking, and we decided to help people along. Like we wanted to provide with, this is coming soon anyways, a course so that
Hmm.
you set the simple framework that we just talked about, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
step by step, walking people through that, provide them with a tracker tool so that they can kind of automate the process a little bit so that it's not
Hmm.
just manual data entry on a monthly basis, and kind of not just track, but also project a little bit what that future can look like so that they can stay on track. Right. Because
Right.
it's hard to kind of just keep driving with the headlights on where you can only see, 3 feet in front of you. We want to be able to
Hmm.
see the road ahead of us and possibly the angle, and not just like focusing on just one stack at a time, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
projection tool is going to be key. And then having a community of like-minded people, just like in our DIBS community and all the other communities that we're part of, it's it's really hard to get out. Like you finally spent the hour or 2 hours with us today, and you got out of that rut thinking
Hmm.
in your brain. And then you go back to your normal community and everybody's still talking about the old accumulation method, right? And they're talking about the wrong type of investment product for this process. And without a community to kind of steer you in the right direction and keep you focused and engaged, it's easy to just go back to the old ways, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
those three pieces or ingredients that comes together, that's what we want to create. We want to give people the space to grow their wealth within the income stacking framework, with starting with some, income cash flow optimization, layer that with the simple framework that we just went through today about stacking and the pacing, the percentage, and what to do if you have a little bit more money or whatever, or even adding in additional pieces of complexity with IBC and other pieces, right, with DIBS. So kind of putting it all together, but it's still in a manageable framework. And so that cut out a lot of the different noise out there, different directions that people get pulled when they first
Right.
come into this knowledge base, and having people who have already done it, for years, to
Hmm.
be available to be resources for the people in the community. I think that's going to be super powerful and fun.
One of the things that I so appreciate about you and Mike, and I'd like to think that Life Success and Legacy does this as well, is that we listen.
Mhm.
And we listen to what people are wanting and needing that could improve their lives. And we have heard for a long time that people who are interested in income stacking, they want a place to go, a tool to use. They need a resource that can do that. And what I appreciate is that you have listened to that, and that you and your business partners, who are clients of ours as well, right, that you have listened and said, okay, here is a tool. And then there's this whole community of people in a chat, in a group, in meetups that are supporting each other. And it's really amazing of what happens when you actually listen to the needs of people and what they're asking for, and then you go out and create the solution for them.
Yeah.
And the gratitude that they express is huge. So I'm one of those people. So thank you for the work that you have done in solving people's problems and giving them solutions to the problems that they're asking for solutions for. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. It all comes with all the support that along the way, we're learning from all this, like I mentioned, Robert Kiyosaki, Nelson Nash, and you guys mentoring us along the way. And just at this point, at 50, I want to pay it forward. I want to be the go-giver and start to provide that in an organized manner. Like before, we were just kind of just throwing it out there, but now we want to organize our thoughts. We want to make it structural, make it sound, and then offer it for people at a very, and kind of lower the barrier of entry for people.
Yes.
This should be information that we can combine with a combined effort, get out there so that as many, that tipping point, or the 10% that the Nelson Nash community talks about, right? I find it's hard to build the 10%. It's definitely a goal, but at least let's find the 10% first. Let's find the 10% of people who are at least willing and open to listening to this concept. And then we'll see what we can build together as a community and hopefully reaching that 10%.
Hey, I am so grateful for you. I appreciate our friendship. I think back to the very first time we met in Texas at that barbecue place, and we hugged and we cried, and it was just an amazing opportunity, the start of a beautiful relationship with you and Mike. And I feel very, very fortunate, oftentimes emotional, like when I sit at a live boot camp and I look around the room at the community that has come together. And you're a big part of that. So thank you for that. Very grateful.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's definitely, we take what you guys have poured into us, and it's not our turn to pour into others. So
likewise. Yeah. Any final words before we wrap this up? This has been power packed. This has been a very nutrient dense podcast.
I just want to say to all the IBC people out there, right? And anyone who's encountering this is, you don't have to invest. You don't have to. But if you do want to with IBC, then at least do it in a systemized fashion and a control fashion, so that you are not going back. Like you're moving one step forward by understanding IBC, and then you go into the investment world and you're going backwards by, putting your cash value that you've spent a lot of time accumulating, right? And pulling up, building that warehouse, and then you take unnecessary risk and have it all gone. So income stacking pairs really well with IBC, because I think the philosophy of it, or the general backbone of it, is very similar, right? We're just using IBC as our banking system, and we're going out there, we're still being the bank and owning and buying these note instruments that are safe and secure. So, or you can even create your own. That's why, I don't say like you have to invest in certain things. There's a menu of different choices, and you can even create your own. You can actually, in the family banking process, you can actually buy out, next generation's card notes, student loans, those things, and create those instruments yourself. So lots of options. I don't want to confuse people, and I don't want to tell people that you have to do it this way. It's just an option that we want to present to people. And hopefully we provided enough information that they can make an educated decision on what they want to do with their policies.
Right.
And yeah.
So for people who are out there and want to learn more, I always direct people to reading Mike Kwong's book, Dibs on Your Money. That if you have not read that book, it is a fantastic place to start. It's a good foundational understanding of how many of these concepts link together. And then come back and watch Pei's podcast again. And I think that will help you connect a lot of dots for how this all works together.
Yeah.
Okay, Pei. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. I look forward to future conversations. I know there's more. There's things that are popping in my head already, like, in DIBS, Mike talks about how you can do income stacking between your own policies and never invest in anything outside of what you own and control, right? So there's so many possibilities. Going back to what Nelson Nash called the book, Becoming Your Own Banker, it is about the infinite banking concept. I think about, he did income stacking. He didn't call it that, but he demonstrated it in the book. He demonstrated how someone used a loan against their policy and they invested in a car that they leased to someone. And then with that money they paid back, then they bought another car and leased it to somebody else. And you'll see that the payoff on those loans gets shorter and shorter. So even Nelson, without using the language of income stacking, he demonstrates it in Becoming Your Own Banker. So this is not a foreign concept. What is exciting, Pei, is that you have given a structure and resources and a community that people can tap into to make it very doable, very simple, very easy for them if they want to consider something away from the accumulation model and more towards a passive income model. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your knowledge and sharing it and paying it forward to everyone else.
Thank you for the opportunity to explain it and, use my voice to influence some young people, hopefully, who are listening.
Yes, absolutely.
We know who you are.
We do. To our listeners, thank you for investing so much time that many of you do in listening to our podcast. We get our content from you all, to be honest. When we do our boot camps, the questions that people ask in the boot camps become the topics of our podcast. So thank you for giving us your questions. Please check us out at lifesuccesslegacy.com. Join us for a webinar, join us for a boot camp. To our listeners, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you, Pei.
Bye.
Bye.